Hi, thank you for joining me in my studio today, and I thought I would share with you how I created some monoprints using a jelly plate. And what I did with the papers is I used them in a repurposed book art journal, and I have a video of how I did that, so there'll be a link in the description of the video below, if you haven't seen that already. And basically, I'm using golden paints. They're liquid paints, and I had them on hand. This one was magenta and a yellow that I had. And I found that the jelly plate was slipping around too much, so I taped it down, and I have a piece of paper underneath it because the jelly plate will absorb whatever texture it comes across. Um, so I have a piece of paper um, on the bottom. And here I added green and a violet, and I'm just using my brayer to move it around the colors. I think on this particular one I um, mix the colors a little bit too much, but I'm using it as a texture plate. And for the texture plate, I just glued on some lace to a piece of mat board and just, staple them down too. And it really gives a nice texture because the lace was pretty deep. Um, so I'm continuing doing this, and I'm adding I think that was sap green, and I'm adding an orange, and I'm really being influenced by the colors of fall because when I created these jelly papers, print papers, it was fall, and I was looking out my window and seeing all the beautiful fall colors. What I'm using for paper is just cardstock, but you could use watercolor paper, you can use mixed media paper, whatever you have on hand. And here again, I'm adding yellow um, to the plate, and a sap green and an orange. So I'm kind of adding three different colors here, and I do like the result of that. And I'm just kind of braying around, but I don't really want to mix it. And for the texture, I'm using just corrugated cardboard that I glued down to a piece of mat board, and using that for the texture on this print. And what I'm doing is I'm using basically a two-step process for my monoprints. I'm kind of doing a background print and then letting that dry, and then adding a print where I use texture onto the jelly plate for the second part of the process. And so here I'm starting the first part. I had blue, I think it was ultramarine blue, and yellow again. And it's picking up some of the texture from the background, which is why I'm not cleaning off my jelly plate till I'm ready to put it away. Um, Here I'm using a violet and a green, and just, putting a little bit down. A little bit goes a long way, and just, using the brayer. Um, and I really like the model look of that. And I'm using lace that I had just stapled down onto a piece of mat board, and trying all this stuff out. So some of the prints came out nicer than others. Some of them I really liked, and some of them not so much. But that's the beauty of monoprinting. You never know what you're going to get, and I haven't been doing it long enough so that I know what I'm going to get when I'm done. So I'm still experimenting and playing, and I guess that's the most fun way to create art, is just to kind of play around. And I really like the color of this background print. It was like a golden yellow that I used, and azo yellow, I believe it was, that I really thought came out nice. And here I use some orange and some green, and for the texture, and I'm making sure it's dry, which it wasn't, so I used it as a base first step process for another print, and I kind of like that. Um, and I used again the green and the orange because I wanted to use that for the texture um, of that first print that wasn't quite dry yet for a texture. And I'm using the lace, and I really liked how this came out. And again, this is just lace that I stapled onto mat board. And having that azo gold kind of yellow um, for the first part of the print, it really came out nice. I really like that. And I'm just continuing to play. Um, once you get started, it's really easy to keep going for a while. And it is kind of a messy thing to do, so you kind of want to keep going while you have everything out. And here I'm using bubble wrap for texture. And, it's so much fun to use the stuff that you have on hand instead of going out and buying all kinds of stuff. Although shopping is fun too. But you don't really need to. There's a lot of stuff that you can find and use in art that's just all over, and which is why I love mixed media art. But here I used a blue and a yellow, and I'm getting green, and just using that as the first part of my printing process. So I'm just using this two-step printing, or two layers, I guess, of the mono printing. And again, adding some blue, adding some yellow, and just kind of bringing it around and getting my greens. And as you can see on the side, I'm just kind of cleaning my brayer on paper, and then that again, paper can be used for um, mixed media projects down the road. And I kind of like that, with the layers of the leftover paints and textures from the plate. So now it almost looks clean again, so I'm starting all over. But just kind of continuing to do this. And, um, I like the combination of the blue and the yellow. So it doesn't matter what blue or what yellow you're using. I just kind of like that combination. And here, making it as a texture plate, and I used some lace again that I had stapled onto a piece of mat board, and just kind of pulling that. And I mean, you can go on and on doing this. It's just so much fun. And I was encouraged by another artist to play with mono printing, and kind of really didn't until I saw a couple of videos on using the Geli plate. So I just thought it would be so much fun, and so I'm really glad that I was encouraged to do this. And this is just tissue paper that I crumpled up and used as texture, and really like how that effect came out. Some of this you really can't see real well because I'm doing it so quickly, but I, in the book video that I have the link below, where I use these, I did do a little bit of slower version of, a flip through of the books, and you can see the Geli prints a little bit more. And here I'm using lace, just again for texture, and trying to find something that's dry. This one I started out with just the bubble print texture for the first layer, and then I have that lace. So here, I'm just showing you some of the prints from this process that I did. And really, I like that one. That's one of my favorite ones, and I actually like that one too. Um, but you'll find that, and this, it almost looks like koi fish to me. So it really comes out with. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with the mono printing, but for me, I'm just using it as a starting point for the process creating my mixed media art. Um, so I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope it's inspired you to do a little bit of mono printing with your jelly plate. I know it was a big thing way back, and you might have one collecting dust on a shelf someplace. So if you do, um, feel I hope this encourages you to pull it out and work on it again. And again, thank you for joining me and watching my video. And if you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe to my channel, and then you'll be notified when new videos come out. So again, thank you for watching, and have a good creative day today. Bye.